I've known Ilana a long time, and I'm Jason Flemyng, and I'm an actor. A job in working actor, which I'm very lucky to be.
He says, I'm an aspiring actor currently trying to get into drama school on my 4th attempt. I've not been successful so far, but I'm not giving up. I just wondered what your specific acting process was when you get a part. How do you work on the script and your character? Do you use specific methods? Nobody is ever clear on how they approach a role. Obviously, you read the scripts a lot, but what is your step-by-step process?
Before I answer that question, how many people here are actors?
Oh.
Okay, pretty much all of us, right? And how many are sort of aspiring directors, producers? Okay, so pretty much everyone's in the same game as me, right? Okay, that helps, because I don't want to bore people to death about acting methods. Well, basically, I believe, and I'm sure you would all agree, I'm not going to say anything that's rocket science today, but basically acting for me is 80% confidence. I'm not talking about James Corden, I can present the Oscars without even looking at the script confidence. I'm just talking about a quiet confidence which you build up over years or months or however long you've been working, and then that confidence is something which allows you to sort of take a risk. It allows you to be laughed at, it allows you to fail. It's the sort of thing where you go, I think I should do this. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And then everyone's looking at you and you go, yeah, I'm just going to do it. And then you do it. And then the director goes, yeah, that was all right, that was good. Or he goes, maybe not, maybe we'll try something else. But it allows you to do what you instinctively think you should do, because there is no method, whether it's Stanislavski, whether it's a drama school teacher or an acting coach that you have, that can solely teach you. You know, it has to be things you steal from everyone. You know, you steal that from Stanislavski, you steal that from your drama teacher, you steal that from another actor that you've seen do something, you go, oh, that was really good, I'm going to nick that. And you stick that in the bank. And all that stuff just builds up over years and allows you to make those decisions which make you brave, and make you brave enough to make the choice which is the correct choice, which is your instinctive choice. Now that confidence, I'll get off this in a minute, but it's really important that I explain this to you, because that confidence is something sacred that you must never let anyone take from you. Another actor, I mean, you've all had it, and I've had it loads, where another actor's, is anyone Christian here? Do you mind if I swear? Okay, but when another actor's fucking with you, and you know they're fucking with you, and you're like, you just have to turn and walk away. And whether it's an actor, whether it's a friend from school, whether it's your parents, whether it's whoever it is, if they're going, oh mate, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time doing that. No, that's no good. You just go, mate, that's really nice, thank you for your input. And you just walk away, because that confidence is the thing which will get you the parts you want, which will, when you get the part and you're on set or on stage, will allow you to be the best you can be. And that is sacred, and it's tiny, but you've got to protect it. Because as soon as you lose that confidence, which we've all done, you can't even open a door. You know, you're like, you start shaking, and it doesn't matter how much prep you've done, it doesn't matter how well you know it, suddenly you're like, I don't even know I can walk across the stage. And that is the thing you've got to fight and protect yourself against. Nerves is different. Nerves is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the belief in yourself, the belief that you will make the right choices as an actor. And that is my key, that is the key, and that is all I have. I mean, I've been very lucky, I've made 100 movies, you know, I've been on stage all over the world, but the real key to it is just, I'm only me, but I'm confident enough to make the choices I make, and that seems to work. And that's based on the truth of the scene, the truth of the situation you're in. You go, you know, I'm playing a character, but what would I do? What would I do in that situation? And that's really my method, is just believing that is good enough. So that is sort of my method, I think.
I'm an American who came in to train at LAMDA because I have a passion for British film and television, but there doesn't seem to be an openness for my accent. The industry seems so closed, where they only use the same people over and over from the same agencies. My question is when to call it a day and accept that they aren't going to see me or give me a chance, especially when so many casting directors tell me to go back to America.
It's tough. I mean, I did Curious Case of Benjamin Button as an American, playing an American, and that opening is only really allowed to you once you've created a certain amount of history so that they'll consider you. I mean, and casting directors in America and in England, and directors in America and England are lazy. They want someone from the thing. You know, they go, like, for instance, when we made Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, no matter what anyone thought of that film, it was successful. So then they're like, get one of the kids from Lock, Stock, and then they go, well, Jason Statham is too expensive, and Nick Moran's directing and Dexter Fletcher's different to me, so they go, well, get the other one, what's his name? Jasper Flemyng, whatever it's called. And that's the way it is, you know, and so when I went to America, they were like interested because they want something that's hot. They want, not even hot, but warm, tepid even, but they want something. They want something. And they want something that's successful in something else, so that they think, well, if he's successful in that, then he can play a brain surgeon in this. I mean, it doesn't have any, it's ridiculous, it shouldn't work like that, but that's the way it works. So if you're an English actor wanting to play a Yank, what you either do is you give up everything, move to America, and anonymously learn how to speak an American accent and pretend you're American, or you have a certain amount of success in the UK. The Americans, it's much easier for us, the Americans have a sort of, is anyone American? Americans, good luck in the soccer. But Americans have a romance about British actors, which they feel there's a talent, which there is a talent with us, but they feel that there's a talent that's based in theatre, it's based in training, and they believe that we are more talented possibly than we are. But so that a lot of us get to work in the States. But as an American working in the UK, I would presume it'd be the same thing. You'd have to make sure that your English accent, whichever English accent you choose is absolutely impeccable, and then audition as someone who's English and create. I mean, it's bad enough to auditioning, but to actually auditioning and lying at the same time is tough. It's really tough. But there's no way that you can walk, if you walk into an audition anonymously as a young actor or an inexperienced actor, and they don't know you, and you say, well, actually, I'm an American, and then you go, cool, blimey, governor, the missus won't believe this when I get home, and you pretend to be sort of a Cockney, then it's really tough. It's really, really tough. I think you just have to really, really practice and really, really nail a personality that's English if you're an American. Because if you're auditioning for American parts in England, unless they're day players on the big, studio movies, when we do studio movies in England, they love, we all play Americans, they love having American day players because the people who live in London, it's much cheaper than obviously shipping them over from the States. So there is work, it's just getting through to the casting directors. So my advice would be, elongated, but my advice would be perfect your American accent, English accent, so that you're indistinguishable from the rest of us. And then also make sure the main casting directors like Lucinda Syson and those people that are all in Spotlight know that you're an American working in England. But it's tough, it's definitely tough.
Can I ask you about your representation evolution in terms of kind of who you started with and how you changed agents and when you decided to change and what you found has been working and then how you...
I'm not the best example of that because when I left, I went to Moscow Arts Theatre on a sort of with a group of Americans. When the it's a long time ago, guys, before any of you were working, yeah. But basically, when the wall came down in Berlin, there was a huge sort of cultural exchange between the former Eastern Europe and the UK and America, and they sent a group of drama students from London and a group of drama students from New York. It was can't remember the name of the school. But they sent a lot of us over to Russia, and we studied under Alexander Kaliagin, who was a great sort of exponent of the method and of Stanislavski, and we did Chekhov. And then we came back, and when we came back to London, we were sort of interesting because we'd been studying in Moscow, so all the agents decided that we were interesting. Again, it's just about that warm or tepid. It was like, what distinguishes these guys from these guys? And we'd just been to Russia, so an agent picked me up then, and I've been with him ever since. He's now 73, and last year he went, Jason, I've got something to tell you, and I was like, fuck, thank God he's going to retire, because I can't leave him until he retires. I'm going to start work from 11 o'clock, and I was like, oh. So my thing is, he's been, when I started working, he they take 10% or 15%, and he said, this is how long ago it was, he said, your 10% wouldn't pay for the typewriter ribbon in the office. So he didn't take commission off me for 3 years. So he's an old school, and because of that, it's called Jeremy Conway. His agency is amazing. But because of that, I feel now that I've got to stick it out until at least he quits, Because when Anthony Hopkins left me, I couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. So if I leave him, he's going to be in bed for at least 5 or 6 hours. So I'm not the best person to ask, but what I will say is, from my experience, any agent who's not taking more than 15%, 10% off you is better than no agent. I mean, it's really tough, but there's another thing which which is an issue. Whereas if you get with an agent that you quite respect, that you're glad to be with, you think, wow, that's great, I'm with them, and they do fuck all for you, is really, that's another thing, because you think, well, I'm better off here, you know, because at least they're respected, at least they know who they are. But I've known loads of actors who've been with, you know, Duncan Heath or ICM, who've rotted on their books, you know, they just rotted on the books. And that's tough, that's really tough, because the elation of being with an agent you think can really help you lasts takes you through a long, you know, can take years before you go, wait a minute, you know, why aren't I with Mickey Mouse Associates, who at least getting people in for jobs, and at least getting people in the door. You know, it's a really tough one. But I think your instincts, again, same with the acting choices you make. When you think this isn't working out, even though it's terrifying to leave, if you're not getting, okay, this is how I feel about it. If I wasn't getting a call a month, I'd go. Yeah, I think that would be it. A call a month at least. You have to. Not you calling them and them going, oh, no. They're not calling you once a month going, there's something quite interesting, I'm not sure if it's right for you, but if you weren't getting a call a month, I'd go. By the way, this isn't gospel, guys. I don't want to you bastard, I'm homeless.
Do you have separate representation in the US?
Yeah, I do.
How did that come about?
Eileen Feldman is a great sort of American agent. She's wonderful. But she's also an Anglophile. She loves the English. And she has a connection with Jeremy Conway in London. My manager in LA, who funnily enough just phoned when Mum was there, it's the same thing. I've got a manager in LA, and when I was hot, when we were doing Benjamin Button, and we got Oscar nominated, 13 Oscars nominated, and we won the SAG Awards for the best ensemble cast, and it was like really exciting, blah blah blah. I'm an old player. I was like, mate, okay, this will pass. But Brad's manager went, I can change your life, man. I mean, I don't even need to change your life because I make so much fucking money. She represents Brad and Brad's ex. So she represents both those states, 15% of Brad and 15% of Jennifer Aniston. So she doesn't need my 40 quid a month, you know what I mean? But she was like, I can change your life, man. And I was like, no, even though I'm long in the tooth, I still thought, that's pretty fucking cool. She could check that'd be great. She went, I'm going to manage you, and I'm going to change your fucking life. I was like, okay. And she goes, I'm going to charge 12%. 12% of everything you earn, I'll take. But if in the first year you haven't tripled your income, then I'll stop charging you. And I was like, oh, cool, okay, that seems cool. So I went with her, and I think last night, 3 days ago, was the first time I actually heard her send me an email. And after about 5 years, I think, I've got to just say you can't have any more money off me. I know, it took me ages. I mean, my money was nothing compared to what she has, but I eventually wrote this email, and it took me like 3 days to put it together. It went, basically, any work that I get through you, I'll pay you commission on, but I can't keep affording to give you 7.5% of the bill in London, you know, that I get, you know, so I'm sending like 600 quid to you, and you're dropping it and going, I won't even bother picking it up. So eventually I sent that letter, and I know, they do it all the time, you know, guys. I mean, people go, this is amazing, we're going to get so, especially in the States, as, you know, without being rotten about the States, I mean, they're dead enthusiastic, and there's, you know, any one of you guys can go to America and you can do it, you know, you can make it there, because they are all encompassing, all welcoming, but they don't have to talk some shit. It's tough.
Hi. Okay, so for someone who's just left drama school, got an agent a few months ago in very early stages, you're saying one a month then is not, it's difficult when you're cross-comparing yourself to other people in school, and I've ended up in a year group that have done exceptionally well very quickly, which is brilliant, and I'm so glad to be part of that year.
Long road.
At the poor school as well, because we're not up there with Roger and LAMDA, so it's a real tough, you know, you're not spoon-fed anything, and you really have to do a lot yourself, and it's pretty brutal. So if the phone isn't going even after 2 weeks,
of course.
You wouldn't call that panic?
No, man. Listen, I mean,
it's just one of those.
No. Listen, it's a perfectly.
You have to trust
you
that
have to.
is at the end. It is fighting your cause.
Yeah. I mean, they won't be. You know, they're taking you on. They're going to go. Well, we'll give her a go. You know.
Yeah.
They'll forget about you because you know someone's just got a big movie, and they're like, oh fuck, what about that new girl that we just hired? What's her name? You know, I mean, it is like that, but you have to give them 6 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
6 months, and then. If the phone's not ringing once a month after 6 months, let me change that to what I just said. Then I'd start questioning it. But for me, the key for all of us is people you've worked with before. Obviously, that's a great source of income and a great source of work. But it's so simple. It's casting directors. Now, you can't inundate them, you can't drive them mad and sit on their door, because then they just go, there's that mad bitch from the postcard. But what you can do is, which I think is really important, is stay in contact with them, send postcards, even though we get nothing back. Don't drive them mad, but there's like 12 casting directors, we all know who they are, and if you don't know who they are, you just go to Spotlight and you can see, mate, watch movies and see who cast them in the UK, and they're the ones that you want to be in touch with, and you want them to know who you are. Send postcards, send Christmas cards. So I'm smarmy, there's no denying it. I disguise it well, but I am smarmy, people are flattered. You would be so surprised how few people write to casting directors and go, listen, I think, especially directors, right, because they're in charge, right? Casting directors cast it, but if you write to a director like Mike Lee, like Dexter Fletcher did, and said, listen, I think you're fucking amazing, I love what you do, I'd love to be part of it in any way, full stop, Dexter Fletcher. It happens, they go, well, that's quite sweet, people that you respect, write to, don't stand on the doorsteps, but write to them, and write to them again and say, look, I don't know if you got my last letter, but just touching base with you guys, it's a pain, but at least it's proactive, at least you can get up. The terrible thing about our work is you think, I can't get up Monday morning any earlier and make it happen, You can think, if you're doing anything else, if you're building a boat, you can get up and, start sanding and start building, but we can't do that. So anything that's proactive, well, mate, I don't need to lecture you on this shit, you know what it's like, but it's amazing how few people do write. Amazing. So.
Kind of springboarding off what you've just said, obviously you were quite lucky and got a really good agent at the start of your career. Was there much work, especially in the early stages, that you got yourself that was nothing to do with your agent, or that you, basically?
It's tough. There isn't. I think some people from drama school have just got out of drama school. And, there are theatre groups that are set up within the last year. The people go, right, we're going to do this ourselves, and we can set up theatre groups. And I think that happened at LAMDA, and people did do that. But it's incredibly hard, because just because you're an actor doesn't mean you can direct or write, as we all know. If we could write, for instance, Guy Ritchie, who wrote Lock, Stock and Snatch and all the others, he created something that everyone loved, that he wouldn't let anyone else do except himself. So if you can do that, if you've got the key, if you can write something that everyone wants to make, and you say, well, no one's allowed to make it, it's mine, that's incredibly lucky, and that is a way of creating your own work. But going back to what I first started talking about, which is confidence, and confidence only comes from experience. Like I say, to reiterate, not like James Corden confidence, even though I admire him and think he's really funny, his confidence is God-given and something which no one can take off him, and I never ever would be able to achieve that. But to have the confidence to do short films, get together, especially now with all this little Canon thing, we could shoot a whole thing on that and project it at the Clapham Picture House. But you could do it on an iPhone. Charlie Dance just did a movie on an iPhone that's been projected at BAFTA next week. It's ridiculous how easy it is. Now that's great because it means it's accessible to all of us, but it also means there's 10 tons of shit out there that's unwatchable. Because in the old days when you used to have to do it on film, everything you made cost, and if it costs, then there's a filter process, which means that no one is going to give them money unless they really truly believe in it. But even having said that, filming, shooting your own stuff, however basic or fundamental it is a great thing to do as well. But I don't know how good advice that is, but I think work that came off my own back, not really. Work that's come from direct, you all know this, but it'd be a pleasure to be around. No one wants a pain in the arse. No one wants to work with anyone that's difficult. No one wants to work with anyone that's late, untidy, dirty, smelly, whatever. It's so basic. It's so basic. But if you make yourself a pleasure to be around, then they'll come again. And that's my career. Most directors I've worked with 4, 5, 6 times. Guy Ritchie and Matt Vaughan 8 times, and that's not because I'm super talented. That's just because I make the coffee.
Everyone has horror stories, so what's the worst audition you've ever had?
Oh man, I've had some stupid. But the lucky thing is, it's like I've had auditions,
Yeah.
I'm lucky to get in the room, I know that. But I've had some real stinkers, like, because you know what it's like, guys, we're like, I think I could do that, you know, I know, I really think I could do this, and it was who was, what's the, Kathy, not Pride and Prejudice, the one with the really dark, handsome guy, who, Wuthering Heights. Ray Fiennes got it in the end. It was just between me and him. But he's black-haired and, you know, swarthy, kind of gypsy-like, and I was ginger, white-skinned, and I was like, no, I could do this. And it was at Universal, and there was I was really young. It was a great director, a cast director called Patsy Pollock, who no longer cast. And I dyed my hair black for the audition. And it was a glass office, and it was an open plan office, and on the wall over there was a picture of Marlon Brando in The Godfather. I remember it was the size of that door. And it was a glass office, and I sat there and went, I can do this, and I worked so hard on it, and I had a white shirt on, and Patsy went, okay, Jason, if you'd just like to do the scene, and I went, Kathy! And I sort of pushed my head back and hit the glass, and bit my lip, and started bleeding. And it was a much smaller room than this, and they were all like that. And I was going, Kathy! I was on the hills, the winds were blowing, I was on the hills, I was going ballistic, and I finished and went, like blood all down my chin. And they were all like that. And Patsy Pollock phoned and said, Jason, thanks very much for that, and if they ever do Wuthering Heights, the musical, they'll be it's like devastating. The other one was The Great White Hope, which was a boxing movie. I'm skinny, look at my wrists. The Great White Hope, was an amazing American boxer. I forgot his name. And the audition, they said, well, strip to the waist and shadow box the camera. So I went, yeah, fine, I can do that. So I took all my shirt off and stuff and started going, and it was winter, and I had a cold, and I was going, and I went, and I had nothing on, so I just started smearing it all over myself. And I just like smeared snot all over myself. And she was going, and I carried on, because I was passionate. I thought, well, boxers have snot, it's fine. But that's just two of my worst screen tests of all time. So it does happen to us all. But like I said, I'm lucky. I've always got in the room, and that's all you can ask. From all you want is to get in the room. Show what you can do. If you let yourself down in the room, that's what happens. But you can't be good or bad unless you get in the room. That's the trick.
A lot of us struggling actors, it's always a really fine line between keeping the confidence, which is what you talked about earlier, and not being dictated by fear of saying something. Have you ever walked out of a job?
Walked off a job?
Because
through fear?
Something that you didn't agree with, or the way you were treated? Because that's the thing that us struggling actors, we always question. We're like, oh my God, if I say something, they're not going to want to work with me, they're not going to call me, they're not going to da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. The trick is, right, you never walk off a job. If you do a job, no matter what the money is, no matter what the job is, you do it with a smile on your face, and anyone you dislike or anyone that's fucking with you, you never let them know. That's the trick, okay? Our job is 20% acting and 80% politics, okay? So if you do a job, you make sure, I've just finished a job, 6 months, and two of the actors, I get on with people, I don't dislike people, so it's very rare it happens, but two of the actors I fell out with. But when I left, they thought we were best mates, and that's the trick, okay? That empowers you. You're in the control then, right? Because the director's being a shitbag to you. You're like, mate, that's fine. You want me to do it? Absolutely fine. By the way, I thought it was a really good note you gave me. Thank you for that. And inside you're like, you dick. But that empowers you, Then you're in control. No matter how small your part is, no matter how little you're being paid, you're in control because you're the only one that knows what you think of them all. Now, if you say what you feel, if you say, do you know what, you're being disrespectful and I'm upset and I don't want to do this now and I need a minute, and everyone's like, oh, for fuck's sake. But if you just suck it in, you sometimes have to, listen, I'm not, like I said, I'm not overconfident. I have to go to the loo and sit on the loo, no, I don't need the loo, get myself together, come back out and nail it. But in my theory is you never ever walk off a job and you never complain, ever. No matter what the situation is, no matter what the hours you're working, never let them know. And then they'll call again. And then it's up to you. If they call again and you don't want to work for them, you just say, look, I'm really sorry. God, I'd love an opportunity to work with you again, but I'm busy. That's the way I work. That's the way it works for me. And that's any actor, no matter how justified you are to complain, It never serves you, ever. Because the DOP will just not understand. He'll go, why is she being such a narky bitch? You know, he won't know what happened in makeup and then again in hair, and then the runner telling you that you couldn't have breakfast because you were an extra, and you're like, no, I'm not an extra, I've got a part. And they're like, oh, fuck, sorry, I didn't know, but come on, Jasper, would you like to come to, oh, we haven't got a trailer, can you change all the makeup for us? And, you know, whatever it is, you just take it, suck it up, because, I mean, that's the way I work. I mean, a lot of people don't think that's right, but that's the way I work. No one knows that you did, this is the other thing, sorry. No one knows that you turned down a job. No one knows. Like when we did Lock, Stock, after Lock, Stock, we all made for nothing, right? We made Lock, Stock for nothing. And then Guy Ritchie made Snatch with Brad Pitt and Benicio del Toro and a budget and everything. And he, when we did Lock, Stock, he goes, guys, if you do this movie for me, I'm going to look after you. And we went, really? He goes, next time, it's proper dough and caravans, the whole works. And then Snatch came along and he went up to all the actors and went, listen, I can't make the same film again, I can't use the same people, but I can slip you in as an extra. And they all went, fuck you, I can't believe you're doing that, fuck you. And they walked off and I went, could I be Brad Pitt's brother even if I don't speak? And he went, yes you can. And so that was me there, and then basically no one knows that Vass Blackwood went, fuck you, I'm not doing this film. That's disgusting, you're disrespecting me and I'm walking. No one knows that. They just know that Jason's always in all those films at some point, and at some point, it must be great because he's like part of that community, and that's what it's about. It's about building up those ties where one film you might be a day player, the next film you might, you know, have a decent part, but you know, unless you really feel trivialised, unless you really feel, you know, if the script is, you know, horrendous and it's sexist or racist or something, that's a different thing. But you know, never let your ego stand in front of the fact that any time you spend with a good director, you're investing your time into his life, and he'll pick you up again. You know, Joe Wright, Guy Ritchie, Matt Vaughan, all those people use me time and time again, just because I'm in their mind, you know. I'm boring myself now.
Can I ask you about low pay, no pay work? Because obviously nobody wants to work for free.
Yeah.
But what's your view on it? And obviously when you first started out, did you do a lot for free, and how did you juggle that? I
do more now for free than I ever did when I started, just because I can sort of afford to do stuff for free now. I believe with whether it's right or wrong, there's a certain amount of karma in our industry, and I also believe that if you invest in people when they start, they will look after you later on in life. So I do a lot of shorts, I do a lot of free stuff, because I, you know, you never know where anyone's going to go. It's not just a selfish thing that I'm like when I go to auditions, I usually give a couple of quid to a big issue salesman. My wife says, Jay, that's not generosity, that's sick. You think that if you give that geezer 2 quid, you're going to get the audition. I'm like, I'm giving him the 2 quid, you know what I mean? But it's like, you know, my mate Bertie, Robert Portal, who I just did we made a film for 60,000 quid. And he's really uptight about doing, he's a professional actor, and he's in King's Speech and he's in all sorts of things, and he's like, I will not work for nothing. You know, I trained for 3 years, I've worked for 20 years, I will not work for nothing. I'm like, fine, that's a very fair, strong point you're making, but I would always do it, because when you're starting out, it's rotten. When you're starting out, I think it's unfair. I think when you're skint, right, if you don't have your rent, then you should be paid enough to get to work, to eat and get home. End of subject. If they come to you and you're doing okay, or at least have 6 months safe in the bank, then when they say to me, we'll give you 90 quid, I said, you know what, I don't keep your 90 quid, and let's not blur the fact this is a favour. Don't pay me 90 quid and then think, well, I paid him. Do you know what I mean? But when you're starting out, you got to be able to get enough money to get to work and eat and get home. It's not fair for it to literally, no matter, if they're making a film and they can't give you 90 quid a day, then they shouldn't be making the film, unless it's your film. And then you can say,
we paid 50.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? I mean, it's like you have to be able to feed yourself, and you have to be able to get to work and back. But having said that, I'd still suggest you sacrifice and do some of that stuff if the script's good. But there are loads of actors who refuse to do it. There are. Sorry, I forgot you.
That was exactly my question, especially because the current climate and what equity's coming down quite hard, and the fringe scene and things like that. And I was really interested in your opinion.
What's the official line? What's
the official line is you do not work for free, and we don't condone you working for free, and we don't, even if you advertise somewhere a profit share, it's not.
So what's the minimum?
I think it's national minimum wage, so that it's £6.35 an hour.
Which is about 90 quid a day. Which I think is, you know, 90 quid, man, it's not a lot to ask, is it, for us, you know. But I think, you know, if you're further down the line, I think it's acceptable to if they offer you, like, you know, for me, it's like if they offer me 90 quid an hour, 90 quid a day, they offer me 90 quid an hour, I shit myself. You know, you say, well, that's fine, you know, listen, keep the money and use it in production, give it to some of the younger actors or the less experienced actors.
What do you think the best way to kind of build skill acting on camera, I guess? How do you practice, or how do you...
I think what we were just talking about is, you know, the more time you spend in front of the camera, we worked together a good few times, and it's like, I think the more time you spend in front of the camera, the better. A lot of actors don't look at the monitor, a lot of directors won't let you look at the monitor, but for me, it's really simple. It's like, whether you're making a professional film for someone else or you're doing it yourself, you watch what you do. A lot of actors don't like doing that, but you have to get past your ears and your, you know, fat shoulders or whatever you're worried about, and go, is that what I was trying to do? You know, is that what I was trying to do? And then, I'd love to be a really method, kind of minimal actor, but I'm not. I'm quite big, and I hate it, but that's just the way I am. But, you know, you just watch what you do and go, is that what I wanted to, is that what I was thinking was coming out? Because it's not necessarily the case, you know, we've all, you know, you can use this and do it, and you think, fuck, that's not exactly what I wanted to project. And the more time you spend in front of the camera, whether it's your own or you're being hired to do it, the better, I think.
What's your view on agents, again, trying to very much pigeonhole your casting? I
think that's fine. I think you're going to play close to type for the beginning of your career. You know, I think that's absolutely fine. And I'm happy to do that. I still do it. Well, what they think I am, do you know what I mean? And that's a whole different thing about how you're perceived and what you actually are. But, you know, I think you can pigeonhole me all day long as I'm working. And then from that, you can break out and start to try and do different things.
So I guess if someone's trying to make you something that you feel isn't you... Yeah.
Can you do it? That's the difference.
Is it better to sort of go along with that, or sort of go, look, I'm not going to get cast as the girl next door, the 35-year-old mum, I've got the dark hair.
Yeah, if you can do it,
do you know what I mean?
If you can do it and you're comfortable doing it, then let them pigeonhole you. Okay. Let them get you in front of the camera and work as much as you can, and after that, you can go left or right to that. You know, then it's your choice, because you've started to do. You've got a body of work, you've got stuff on tape, and then you can either say yes or no. By the way, this isn't gospel, this is just my theory. You know, there's a lot of actors who would say, quite rightly, especially the younger people here, would say, look, you've got one shot at it. You know, if you do loads and loads of stuff that where you're like number 7 on the call sheet and you're doing 2 days a week, then that's what you're defining yourself as. You're defining yourself as the sort of actor who's going to work as number 7 on the call sheet. You're not going to get the chance to play Hamlet, and you're not going to get the chance to be the new, you know, what's his name out of? What's that sexy black-haired guy who plays the vampire? Anyway, you know what I mean. Patterson, do you know what I mean? I mean, if that's what you want, then that's what you've got to go for. I'm not talking about that. I've never been that. I've always been slightly out of focus behind the money. That's my position, is to be a grafting actor. I do leads in little movies, and I get cast in great movies, but I'm not trying to be anything that I'm, you know, above where I am. So my advice would be to let them typecast you, and then make your own decision about when you're not happy doing that anymore. But it's better to work than not work. Sorry, mate, go on.
Cheers. Aside from the confidence thing that you mentioned at the beginning, do you have any other advice for getting through or coping better with, you know, like the long periods where there's no work, no emails coming in, no phone calls? It can get very depressing.
Yeah, it can get depressing. I think being proactive is really important. I think some of it's a waste of time, but don't let yourself believe that. I think if you can write, man, I would just die to write, but I can't. But what you can do is get together with people who can write. You know, as an actor, your instincts, your understanding of dialogue is much better than a writer's, just from being an actor. So you can get together with people who can write and do stuff together. It's mentally hard, I know, it's mentally really difficult to spend months and months and months and think, what the fuck am I doing? I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my life, my parents were right. But they're not. They're not right. And you have to stay positive. I mean, this is really basic stuff, but it's like, you know, you never feel worse after a run. You know, keep fit, train, get up, don't drink too much, you know, don't do any hoo-ha. It's just really basic stuff, but it's so hard, bruv. I do understand, and I've spent a long time out of work, and I've been lucky. I haven't spent massive periods out of work, but even now, you know, there are periods where I'm developing stuff and I'm sitting in the script meeting going, this is never going to happen. But at least it's 9:30 on Tuesday and I'm not in my bed. You know what I mean? So you know, keep being creative, keep being creative as much as you can. Cool, mate.
I was just wondering what inspired you to get into this industry and where your passion lied, if it was theatre, film or TV?
I mean, I've done 100 films, and when I get out of the car, I still have to stop myself running to the set. I just go, Jace, it doesn't look cool, just get out of there. So I just want to go, look at the cameras, look at the people. You know, it's amazing. I'm very, very lucky, but my passion came from the same place as yours did. It's just like it's just in you. You just want to do it, and it's the frustration is that you're reliant on other people to let you do it. You feel that you're sitting waiting for that phone to ring, and the only answer to that is to get up and do it yourselves. Now, I can't write. I didn't think I could direct, but actually just from being actors, some of the decisions you're making, some of the things you think, your instinct, exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of this talk, was your instinct is always right, you know, or at least it's worth acting on, you know. As soon as you go, whatever you thought that second when you were just about to jump, that's the right decision. And so acting or directing or writing, you know, starting, I mean, it's depressing, bro, I know, but, you know, trying to get films together yourself, I mean, it's much easier than it used to be, and it's definitely not a waste of time.
Would you have any advice for someone who's done a lot of theatre and would like to sort of break through to get seen for film or TV?
I think it's the same thing. I think you've got two chances, you know. I mean, it's really weird because I'd love to do some theatre, but it seems there's a bridge between the two. And when you're a very famous actor, you can cross that bridge and go back. But it seems with us, when we start, it's like when you leave theatre and go into film and TV, they burn that bridge and you're not allowed to go back across it. And it feels that way for theatre actors as well, jumping into TV or film, that it's like it's something else for someone else. Like I said before, write to the casting directors, make sure that you're known, you know, I mean, especially as you're an experienced actress and you're not 21, you know, actually, the truth is that group of actors in our profession is much smaller now, because most actresses, it's different for the guys, but most actresses, if they haven't made it by 25, they jack it in. So the industry is short of people who are prepared to pay to play, you know, small parts, day players, 3-day players, you know, who are in their 30s and 40s as a woman, and it's actually, it gets easier for them. But that is the niche, you know, that is the niche. So it's definitely not a waste of time writing to casting directors, letting them know you exist, you know. I don't know if that's the right advice, but that's how, I mean, that's what I'm a 50-year-old guy. It's much easier for the blokes, full stop easier for guys. But actors who are prepared to not play the lead, it's easier for, you know, at our age.
Now, writing is always so productive, but one of the things that I've been told by numerous people from different drama schools or directors is, if you're sending a postcard, have your headshot on it. And I'm going, well, where's the line between vanity and just trying to introduce yourself to these people?
I think you know that. It's the same as in life. It's like chatting up a bloke or chatting up a girl. It's like, you know when it's too much, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think letting people know that you're interested, they don't think you know, like one of my great friends now is Lucinda Syson, who's an amazing casting director, but she knows that I know what she does. You know, she knows I'm an actor, I know she's a casting director, so there's an understanding, but it doesn't mean that you can't be familiar, it doesn't mean that you can't, you know, we all work together. Once you get over that, I mean, the other thing is you're so chuffed to work, you're so grateful to work, that you believe it's like a subservient thing, you know, you're like, they're casting and directors, I'm an actor, and I'm so glad to be here. I still get that. I can't tell you there's an answer to that, but with those casting directors, I don't think you should worry about vanity unless you're selling yourself as something amazing. You know, you're just saying, this is me, this is what I look like, I know what you're casting. You know, I've seen it on the internet. We don't even need to pay for all that stuff anymore. We know what's being cast in the UK. Just think, I might be right for something. And it'll probably end up on a pile, but it's definitely worth doing. And like I was saying to you, you know, anything proactive, anything that makes you feel like you're trying to help yourself is keeps you away from getting down.
Just going on what you were saying about screen work and being confident in your ability to act on camera. When you were saying looking at the monitor, like don't be afraid to look at the monitor, do you mean like in between takes, look at the tape?
Yeah, I do. I mean that. Yeah, I mean I do it always.
Okay, because I did a short film recently and there was a scene from it that I really hate that the director was happy with, but I watch it back going, oh, I would have loved to have shot that again because I'm not pleased with it. So are you saying to kind of get over that, it's good to watch every take? Yeah,
I think it's really good. I mean, obviously if it takes you off the set so that therefore they're waiting for you to come back, then you have to work out a way of doing it. Like the sound man has a monitor, right? The sound man has a monitor, so work out at the beginning of the day when you get to set, you're looking around going, okay, this is the set, these are the people, and you check the sound man, you go, right, he's got a monitor, so I can sneak to his monitor, and when they're watching playback, I'll watch it on the sound guy's one, so that I don't have to be in by the director when I'm doing that. And then, and basically, asking for another take is a big thing. You have to be really sure that you're not happy. You know, again, it's one of those things. It's like there's nothing wrong with it, and you should do it, but you have to be really sure because it's one of those things that actors do. That's a pain in the ass. You know? So, what I mean is, if it's a big scene, you know, it's the scene, and you're doing short stuff, so you'll be doing, you know, or you know, feature film, whatever it is. If you're on for a day, then you know your place, you've got to play the game and you can't be doing that. But if you're doing short films and you're doing stuff for 90 quid or less, you're fucking right, you should be saying, you know, I want to do that again, you know? This is as much for them as it is for you. So, but that's how I do it. I watch the sound man's monitor, and if I watch it between, because you're talking about when they go, that's great, let's move on. What I'm talking about is you do the first take and you go, fuck, I know what I need to do. And then the second take, you don't need to talk to anyone about it, you just know what to do.
Right, okay,
you know, less or more, which is basically what we're talking about. You know, didn't believe it, did believe it. So when you ask for another one, it's a big thing. But don't be afraid to do it if you're really confident that you want one, because it doesn't take any time. And the one thing to do is go, guys, can we just not talk about this? Can I just do one more for me? That's all you have to say. You don't have to say because I believe that. Just go, let's just do one more because it's really quick. Time we talked about it, would have done the take, and that's what you should do.
Just wondering, because obviously you have to kind of try lots of different things and see what works. In terms of America, do you think that if you've not got any professional work here, it's naive to just go over there?
No, they don't give a shit over there. How much professional? Unless you're Jude Law, we're all the same. Literally, we're all the same. It doesn't make any difference. Unless you've got like an Oscar or you're nominated for something or you're Jude or it doesn't make any difference because none of us are worth anything to them. You know, if you're right, they'll cast you. That's the great thing about the States. That's the real lure. That's the danger of it, because you've got as much chance of getting cast as we're kind of a different type. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any difference to them. So it's not. If you've got the time and the money, and you want it that much, it's worth going to the States. No doubt about it. And everyone that goes, you come back. You know, you go for a month, 2 months, you come back skin. You go again. Jason Isaacs took 10 years. Jason Isaacs went every year for 10 years. Every year for 10 years with nothing. Every meeting you do, you meet someone. Same as here, you know. But in the States, you do get in the door, you know. It's just the 600 of you getting through the door. So no, it's not naive.
Following on from the American thing, what do you think the main differences and similarities are between the industry here and the industry there working?
We've got a couple of American comrades here. They'll be able to tell you better than me. But basically, in a nutshell, there's more opportunity in America. They're less judgmental in America. But there's a lot more bullshit. There's a lot more projects. It's a huge sacrifice. You're from here. You're going to leave here. You're going to leave your family. You're going to leave boyfriend or girlfriend. And you're going to go and try it on your jacks. And it's tough. It's really tough. You're going to live... It's really, really tough there because, you know, the way here, especially because we're talking about Hollywood, we're talking about Los Angeles, you know, and here you can live quite happily and quite sort of comfortably on a lowish budget, and you're surrounded by people who are living the same way and trying to do the same thing. it's a sacrifice that, for me, this is me going into psychology a little bit. What life is about happiness, a level of happiness that gets you through each day and gets you through your life and makes your life a life worth living. That happiness is as much as the confidence I tell you to protect. That happiness is something you have to protect. You know, if you're prepared to sacrifice that to go and live in the States on your jacks, it's a big thing. Because it's we're only as good as the people around us, and if there are people around here who love you, maybe one, maybe three, if you're lucky, then that's very special, and that's a lot to risk. And of course they'll be here when you come back, but to be in the States on your jacks, surrounded by people who will clamber over you, as they will here, but they'll just do it more honestly in the States. You know, it's a tough environment, but there are more opportunities, and there is more work, and you have got a good chance. There is a chance, not a good chance, but there is definitely a chance of making it there, or at least making a living. I mean, if we look at every single American TV show, I mean, they must be going bananas. Every single one of them, every successful American TV show is populated with English actors doing American accents. They must get so cross.
You mentioned a couple times, like, after a run is like the hardest part, and like when you're warm or tepid or hot, that's like when you want to do things. What would you say, like, in those periods you should be doing? Like, is there, like...
Here?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a show on and then you've got something to show, then you can get people to go and see it, whether it's a film or something in above a pub. It doesn't matter. When you've got something to show, that it's much easier for you. You know, at least you can send those letters and ask people to go to them. But for me, what it was about sustaining longevity, about earning a living. For me, I love acting, but I also never ever wanted to be skint again. I grew up, sorry mum, but I grew up quite poor, and we didn't have a lot, and I wanted to make sure that ended, and the only way I've got of making money is acting. So when things were good, I kind of realised that slight tepid heat would mean that I could get into voiceovers, that people were interested in me for voiceovers, that I could do make some contacts with corporate filmmakers and stuff, and do documentary voiceovers, that sort of stuff. So that was a door which opened briefly when we did Lock, Stock, because you guys are much younger than me, but when we did Lock, Stock, it was like, it didn't just affect the film, it affected fashion, and it affected advertising. You know, there was all that. Suddenly they wanted people to go. You know, what was one of the voiceovers I did? Things like no can goo, no can do. The new Renault Kangoo. You know, that sort of, Lock, Stockish sort of, you know, all that kind of Lock, Stocky kind of talk, which Guy Ritchie created. They suddenly wanted to use in advertising, and none of the other boys were that interested, because they were all, being nominated as, best dressed man in Britain, and marrying Claudia Schiffer and Madonna, and Jason Statham was with Kelly Brook, and I thought, I know what I could do. I could do voiceovers. That would be my crowning glory. And that's, that's harder to get into than acting, but that's been something which has been my bread and butter for the last 20 years, which is great. So yeah, listen, there's another thing. Man, when you're sitting around going, fucking hell, what am I going to do? Cut yourself a show reel. With whatever stuff you've got, cut yourself a show reel and do a voiceover take. Just don't phone me and ask me to do it with you.
Why do you think working, it might sound a really obvious question, if you're offered extra work, working as an extra is bad? I spent 7 years as a hair and makeup artist, and I was on some massive films, and I did, not all the time, but occasionally saw people get spotted. I worked on a Martin Scorsese film, Hugo, and I saw it with some we want him in the front of the shot, grab him. Next thing you know, Martin Scorsese's got his CV, boom, boom, boom. I know that's a million to one chance going to happen, but if you're in that environment, you're on camera, you're earning potentially £200 a day. In my head, I think surely that's better than me doing £6 an hour in bar work like I did when I was 17.
I'll give you my honest opinion. What I said about confidence is what is essential, right? Now, what I said to you about never complaining and never telling people what you think, take both those things into consideration, and then put yourself in a scenario. You're an extra on a film set. Everyone around you is doing exactly what you want to do and what you're passionate to do with your whole life. That's what you want to do. And you can't, because you're cattle and you're herded around. You don't eat with the actors, you eat separately. You are there first thing in the morning, you're thrown a costume to put on, you do your own makeup, and then you're herded home last at night. Now, confidence is important, and there's certain things which will take that away from you, and I think working behind the bar for £6 an hour is better than that, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it just knocks you back too much, you know, it's just crushing. I don't mean don't go and make films for nothing, I just mean being on a film set and seeing Kate Winslet and Brad or whoever and going, fucking hell, I'm like that big. Because you're not, you just never got the chance to audition for that part, you know. But doing extra work is demoralising and it's fucking tough. And even if you think, that was alright, I made 220 quid, I shook hands with Jason Statham and got a photograph with, you know, Mickey Dolenz, whoever it is, but it's like, it's at the end of the day, it's about your confidence. It has to be, you have to hold on to it and protect it, and that is all our lives. You know, that's what we have to do. You have to believe you can do what you've imagined you can do and what you've dreamt of doing, and protect that. And extra work will drain that shit out in no time. I believe. If you think you can do it, and you know, do you know what? It's a gag, it's a giggle, but. It's just like that, you know, on Bullseye when they go, come and have a look at what you could have won. It's just not good. It's not good for us. It's not good for us to see other people and not be able to just, you know, only 6 feet away, but it's like a million miles away. You know, it's not good for us to see that, I don't think.
Do you think that's a similar thing for understudies, like in West End and stuff? Because I know someone who did, who was understudying West End show, and she said the same thing. She was like, the stage is right there, and I can't go on it.
I don't think it's the same at all with understudying. I think understudying is an amazing opportunity to play parts that we'll never play. I mean, I'm not a great Shakespearean actor, but I'm actually doing the film of Macbeth at the moment, which I'm very excited about, but that's only because I invested in it, that's why I got the part. But I think understudying is an amazing opportunity, you know, to play those parts, because you're training, you're learning, that's a whole different thing, you know. I don't think that's in any way demoralising. I think being an understudy forever is hard, you know, it's like the bridesmaid but never the bride, but I think understudying in the theatre is a really great thing to do, and it's just as terrifying, and you generally get an understudy run, so the director sees you, but it's not the same, no. Thank you so much for coming on.